It is January 7th, 1943. Hotel New Yorker. Room 3327. Inside, the air smells of stale bread and burnt electricity. On the bed lies a figure so gaunt, so fragile. He looks less like a man and more like a shadow wrapped in a cheap suit. He is 86 years old. He is penniless, and he is completely alone. Look at his eyes. Even now, as the life drains out of him, they are burning. He isn't looking at the Empire State Building. He is looking at her. A white pigeon. He believed she was his muse, his only true love. He told friends that, as long as she was with him, his life had a purpose. But tonight, she has come to say goodbye. The man in this bed invented the 20th century. He designed the power that lights this hotel room. He holds the patents that defined our modern world. Yet, he will die waiting for a check that never comes, leaving behind a bill he cannot pay in a country that has already forgotten his name. Ask a stranger on the street today who Nikola Tesla is, and they will point to a car. They will point to a brand. If they are geeks, they will tell you he was the Wizard of the West, the cool underdog who was cheated by the villainous Thomas Edison. We have turned Tesla into a pop culture sticker. We treat him like a tragic comic book superhero, the mad scientist who could create earthquakes with a pocket watch. We love the idea of Tesla because he represents the ultimate fantasy, the genius who was right all along. But the truth is terrifying. Because the real Nikola Tesla wasn't a superhero. He was a man cursed with a vision so powerful, it made him incapable of living in the real world. We worship his inventions, but we ignore his tragedy. To understand Nikola Tesla, you have to stop looking at him as an inventor. You have to look at him as a receiver. Imagine having a radio in your head that never turns off. Imagine seeing the geometry of the universe so clearly that eating dinner becomes a nightmare of volume calculations. Over the next hour, we are not going to list dates and patents. You can read Wikipedia for that. We are going to dissect the psychology of a man who fell to Earth from the future and broke into a million pieces upon impact. This is the story of how the world stole the fire from Prometheus and then left him to freeze in the cold. Hi everyone, welcome back. The year is 1884, the Gilded Age. America is a roaring furnace of industry, greed, and steam. It is a time when the night is still dark, lit only by gas lamps. But a ship has just docked in New York Harbor, and walking down the gangplank is a tall, awkward Serbian immigrant. He has exactly 4 cents in his pocket and a letter of recommendation that will change history. He doesn't know it yet, but he is about to start a war. Not with guns, but with currents. A war that will decide whether humanity lives in the dark or in the light. But before he can light up the world, he has to survive it. Let's turn the page to Chapter 1. The Curse of sensitivity. Legend has it that Nikola Tesla was born precisely at the stroke of midnight, during one of the most violent lightning storms the region had ever seen. The midwife, terrified by the thunder shaking the house, wrung her hands and whispered to the mother, "This storm is a bad omen. This child will be a child of darkness." But Tesla's mother, Duca, looked at her newborn son and replied, "No, he will be a child of light." It sounds like a myth, doesn't it? Like something out of a Greek tragedy. But for Tesla, light wasn't just a metaphor. It was his first trauma. From the age of 5, Tesla suffered from a peculiar affliction. He would see blinding flashes of light. These weren't just spots in his vision. They were entire worlds exploding in front of his eyes. If someone said the word peach, a real, fuzzy peach would appear floating in the air before him. He could touch it. He could smell it. He often couldn't distinguish between what was real and what was a hallucination. But this curse came with a gift. Because he couldn't trust the reality outside, he retreated into the reality inside. Most engineers need blueprints. They need prototypes. They need to fail. Tesla didn't. He wrote, "When I get an idea, I start at once building it in my imagination. I change the construction, make improvements, and operate the device in my mind." But every superhero origin story needs a tragedy. For Tesla, it was his brother, Dane. Dane was the golden child, brilliant, charismatic, the chosen one of the family. When Nikola was 7, Dane was killed in a riding accident. Nikola witnessed it, and the guilt shattered him. After Dane died, his father, Milutin, withdrew into silence. Whenever Nikola achieved something, his father would only sigh and say, "If only Dane were here." Imagine the weight of that. To be the surviving child, the spare tire. Nikola didn't just want to succeed. He needed to be so great that he could fill the void left by a ghost. In 1873, Tesla returned home, only to contract cholera. This wasn't just a flu. In the 19th century, cholera was a death sentence. For 9 months, Tesla lay in bed, hovering between life and death. Doctors gave up. His father sat by his bedside. He wanted Nikola to join the clergy, to serve God. Engineering was a hobby. The priesthood was a duty. In a moment of desperation, barely able to breathe, Nikola looked at his father and whispered, Maybe I could get well if you let me study engineering." It was emotional blackmail, but it was also the truth. Tesla knew his spirit was dying because it was being forced into a mold it didn't fit. His father, broken by the thought of losing his last son, finally promised, "You will go to the best technical institution in the world. Just survive." Almost miraculously, he recovered. Some say it was the medicine. Tesla believed it was the purpose. We often talk about passion as something fluffy, something nice to have. But looking at Tesla's deathbed bargain, we see something much darker and more powerful. For Tesla, engineering wasn't a career choice. It was his immune system. The lesson here is brutal but necessary. Mediocrity can be fatal. If Tesla had agreed to become a priest like his father wanted, he likely would have died in that bed. Not from cholera, but from the sheer lack of a reason to fight it. He survived because his mind needed to solve the puzzle of the universe. But as young Nikola packed his bags for the Polytechnic Institute, leaving his village behind, he had no idea that the puzzle was about to fight back. He was heading into the world of men. And men, unlike machines, are messy, illogical, and cruel. Tesla arrived in America with a head full of dreams and pockets full of nothing. He walked straight into the machine of Thomas Edison. But this was never going to work. It was a clash of DNA. Edison was a businessman who happened to invent. Tesla was a visionary who happened to be human. Edison loved the profit. Tesla loved the puzzle. The war of currents followed. AC versus DC. It was dirty. It was brutal. Public electrocutions of animals, smear campaigns, fear-mongering. But truth has a frequency, and Tesla's alternating current was simply better. In 1893, at the World's Fair in Chicago, Tesla stood in a white tie and tails, letting thousands of volts course through his body. He looked like a wizard. He looked like a god. And in 1895, when his turbines harnessed the mighty Niagara Falls to power Buffalo, the war was over. Tesla had won. The world was his. At 40, Tesla was the most famous man on Earth. He dined with kings, joked with Mark Twain, and lived in the Waldorf Astoria. But right here, at the summit of Everest, Tesla made a decision that would seal his fate. George Westinghouse, his backer, was in financial trouble. The contract they signed entitled Tesla to royalties that would have made him the world's first billionaire, richer than Rockefeller and Morgan combined. Westinghouse begged for relief. A normal man would have negotiated. A businessman would have sued. Tesla. He looked at his friend, tore up the contract, and said, "You believed in me when no one else did." In that single moment, he threw away billions. He chose friendship over finance. He chose the idea over the asset. It was a gesture of supreme nobility, and it was an act of financial suicide. 1901 Wardenclyffe, Long Island. This was supposed to be his masterpiece, a massive mushroom-shaped tower. Tesla promised his investor, the legendary J.P. Morgan, that it would transmit radio signals across the Atlantic. But Tesla lay to Morgan. He didn't just want to send Morse code. He wanted to transmit wireless electricity. Free power for everyone, anywhere on Earth. It was a beautiful dream, but dreams require money. December 12, 1901. While Tesla was still calibrating his massive machine, Guglielmo Marconi sent the letter S across the ocean using Tesla's own patents. Marconi did it with a cheap, simple device. Tesla told Morgan, "Marconi is a donkey. Let him continue. I am building a world system." But J2, Morgan wasn't interested in saving the world. He asked the question that killed the future. If anyone can draw the power, where do I put the meter? The funding stopped. The workers left. The tower stood silent, a giant skeleton against the gray sky. In 1917, to pay off accumulating debts, the tower was dynamited for scrap metal. Imagine the scene. Tesla, now aging, watching from a distance as the dynamite exploded. That wasn't just steel and copper falling to the ground. It was his child. It was the 21st century, destroyed by the 20th century. This is the moment he broke. He didn't just lose his money. He lost his credibility. The press turned on him. They called him a poet of science, a dreamer who couldn't deliver. He retreated into the shadows. The humiliation was absolute. He began talking to pigeons because humans had failed him. The descent into the abyss had begun. Why did he fail? We love to blame the greedy bankers. We love to blame Edison. It makes us feel better to have a villain. But if we are honest, Tesla failed because he refused to compromise with reality. He suffered from the Icarus syndrome. He flew too close to the sun, not out of pride, but out of naivety. He believed that if an invention was good for humanity, humanity would pay for it. He was wrong. The lesson here is painful. Being right is not enough. You can have the best idea in the world, but if you cannot communicate its value, if you cannot play the game of economics, if you cannot build a bridge between the future and the now, you will fall. Tesla wanted to give us the stars, but he forgot to keep his feet on the ground. And the ground is where the bills are paid. After the fall of the tower, the lights of Broadway became too bright for him. The noise of the city was too loud. Tesla retreated. He spent his final decades moving from hotel to hotel, the Waldorf Astoria, the St. Regis, and finally, the Hotel New Yorker. He lived on credit, a ghost haunting the very city he helped electrify. But in this solitude, something shifted. The man who tried to control the lightning began to find peace in the smallest of creatures. He walked to Bryant Park every day. He didn't go there to meet investors. He went to feed the pigeons. He nursed sick birds in his hotel room, hiding them in baskets, spending his last dollars on premium birdseed while he ate only crackers. The press mocked him. They called him the nutty inventor, but they missed the point. Tesla hadn't lost his mind. He had simply realized that human society was too transactional. He found a purity in nature that Wall Street could never offer. A Among the thousands of birds, there was one specific pigeon, a white one with light gray tips on its wings. Tesla told his friends, "I loved that pigeon as a man loves a woman, and she loved me. As long as I had her, there was a purpose to my life." One night in 1922, the white pigeon flew into his room. Tesla claimed she looked at him with a fierce light in her eyes, a light more intense than any machine he had ever built. And then, she died in his arms. This was the defining moment of his old age. When that bird died, Tesla said, "Something went out of my life. I knew my work was finished." It sounds sad, but it was also a moment of acceptance. He stopped fighting the world. He stopped trying to be a businessman. He accepted his fate as a vessel that had already poured out its contents. He spent his remaining years not in bitterness, but in a quiet, cosmic waiting room. On January 7th, 1943, Nikola Tesla died alone in room 3327. He left behind no fortune, no heirs, and a massive pile of unpaid bills. By the standards of capitalism, he was a total failure. But let's look at the scoreboard today. Edison is remembered for a light bulb. Tesla is the grid. Every time you plug in your phone, you are shaking his hand. Every time you use Wi-Fi, you are walking through his dream. The electric car revolution bears his name. He won the long game. The lesson of Nikola Tesla is profound. True visionaries are never on time. They are always early. Success isn't always about the money you die with. It's about the future you leave behind. Tesla was the Prometheus who stole fire from the gods. He got burned. He got punished. But because of him, we are no longer afraid of the dark. He taught us that to change the world, you must be willing to be misunderstood by it. Nikola Tesla didn't die poor. He died having given everything away, and there is no greater wealth than that. We have traveled a long road with Nikola Tesla, from the lightning storms of Smiljan to the lonely hotel room in New York. If we look back at the 3 chapters of his life, we see a complete philosophy emerges. First, we learn that purpose is survival. The only reason Tesla survived his childhood sickness was because his mind demanded to solve the universe's puzzles. His obsession was his medicine. Second, we learn that vision needs grounding. We saw him fall from the height of Wardenclyffe because he refused to play the game of reality. He taught us that being right is useless if you cannot convince the world to listen. And finally, we learned the true meaning of legacy. Tesla died with nothing in his pockets, but he left the world richer than any king. He proved that the ultimate act of creation is self-sacrifice. He was a man out of time. He didn't belong to the 19th century. He didn't belong to the 20th. He belongs to us. He belongs to the future. To the dreamers watching this video, to the outsiders, to the ones who feel like they don't quite fit into the logic of this world, Do not let the silence of the world extinguish your frequency. Tesla was mocked. He was cheated. He was called crazy. But he never turned off the switch. The world will always ask you, where is the meter? How do we make money from this? But you must ask, how does this help humanity? How does this light up the dark? You might not die a billionaire. You might face your own Warden Cliff. But remember, the present is theirs. The future, for which you are really working, is yours. What is your Warden Cliff? What is the big idea you are building in your head right now? I want to hear about it in the comments below. If you believe that history should remember the dreamers, hit that like button to help this video find its way to other minds. And if you enjoyed this journey into the mind of a genius, you simply must watch our next episode on Leonardo da Vinci, the man who saw the world 500 years too early. Click right here to continue the journey. I'm Peter. Keep your frequency high. I'll see you in the future.